It's Mr. Abbey from the Academy of Science and Citizenship up in Syracuse. I hope you guys are having a great day. Yesterday, we were talking a little bit, we were opening up our series about conservation. When we conserve, we try to protect and save both our natural environment, the habitats that creatures live in, the ecosystems that we want to keep nice and healthy, as well as what we call our natural resources. Those are the things that we use from nature, everything from the space that we use that we might have cleared out from forests or natural habitats, the dirt that we use to grow plants, that we grow our crops, but all the plants in nature need too, the water that we all need, the energy that we get from the sun, you name it, even stuff like fossil fuels that make a lot of your plastic items like plastic bottles, all of your toys, those come from fossil fuels. So these are all natural resource things that we get from nature that we can use. And we want to protect and save those so A, we don't use them all up, and B, so we can keep our natural environments healthy. When we go out of our way to use up all sorts of stuff super fast and we throw it away, not only are we taking things from the natural world that sometimes can't come back very easily or quickly, but also when we throw them away, we take up even more space and we poison a lot of our natural ecosystems. When we were talking about the ocean, you guys saw that big beach with all the trash that washes up on it, and that can make all sorts of animals, plants, and even humans sick. So we want to think a lot about what we're using, how we're using it, and how do we get rid of the stuff that we can't use anymore. The stuff that we might call waste, which is something you throw away, you can't use it again. When we talk about waste, like we're going to talk about today, we want to think about this symbol. I know you guys all recognize this symbol. You're going to say that's the recycling symbol. Well, I like to think of this symbol. It represents the 3 R's. You've got reduce, reuse, and recycle. And they all kind of go around in a circle together, just like the circle of life. Circle of life, nature reuses everything. When an animal is born, it grows up, it dies, it becomes a part of the soil that helps other plants, and everything keeps going in a circle, just like your plant and animal life cycles. Nature reuses absolutely everything, and you can too. So the way we wanna work on it is I'm gonna start right at the beginning with reduce. I think it's the most important arrow of all the 3 R's because reducing means that we are using less stuff. Use less stuff so that we waste less stuff. Use only what you need and try to use things that you don't have to throw away immediately. If we use less stuff, and that includes use less of those plastic packagings that you have to throw away, use less toothpaste when you squeeze it on, use just what you need. When you're brushing your teeth, maybe you can turn off the sink after you wet down your toothbrush. The water doesn't have to be running the whole time, and we're wasting less water. You reduce the amount of water you use. When you walk out of a room, maybe you turn the light switch off as you leave so that you're wasting less fuel that we use to make the electricity, the energy that we use to keep those lights on. Maybe you turn the TV off. Just like we have at school, we have our energy saver. We want to reduce the amount of all these things that we waste. The second arrow is to reuse. That's another really important one. So instead of using like your plastic bags for going shopping, maybe you can use a nice thick canvas bag that you can use again and again and again. You can reuse those instead of using those thin plastic bottles that you got to throw away every time. Get those thick, hard plastic bottles or metal bottles. You could use a paper cup, but as we all know, Mr. Abbey likes to use those metal or ceramic hard bottles that I can just clean out every time and use it as many times as I want to. And we're using those plates instead of all the paper plates that you got to throw away every time. A nice hard ceramic or plastic plate that you can clean and use as many times as you want are all great things. When we reuse things, we're throwing less stuff away because we need to drink, but maybe you don't need to throw that bottle away every time. Instead of having all that disposable stuff, we want to reuse as much as we possibly can, as many times as we can, so there's less being thrown away into the environment. Our last arrow, and I think is, I put them in the order of how important I think they are. So reducing, very important. Reusing, we want to reuse as much as we can, so reduce the amount of waste in the end of the day. But our last line of defense is still very important, but it is the last line of defense to protect the environment from us throwing stuff into it. We want to recycle as much as we can. So that's when you take something old and you make it into something new. If I use up this paper is nice, clean, and white. It's probably fresh from a tree. It's probably not recycled paper. So when I write something down on it, when I'm done with it, maybe I can reuse it. Maybe I can turn it and use it on the back. That's really helpful. That's going to allow me to reduce how much paper I'm throwing away by reusing it. But let's say I wrote all over it, I can't use it anymore. At that point, maybe I could recycle it by turning it into something nice. Maybe I can fold it into a nice origami flower like you guys have seen me do. Or maybe I send it to the company, I put it in the recycling bin, and I send it to a company to be recycled. But when they recycle paper like that, they have to tear it all down. Sometimes they use chemicals to clean everything off of it, make it nice and white again. So that costs a lot of energy and materials. That's why it's our last line of defense. We really want to focus on reducing and reusing first, but then recycling is that last line of defense to protect our environment by turning it into something new. Like maybe some of my recycled paper birds over there, printed right on there, the recycled paper there. Another way that recycling happens is nature does recycling all the time. Stuff like mushrooms and a lot of your plants that eat the nasty stuff that you might leave out, those are decomposers. When something's biodegradable or decomposable, what it does is it turns into stuff like dirt that can be used by plants. And again, nature doesn't really waste anything, so everything gets recycled. Just like we talked about the water cycle. When we use water, when plants and animals use water, it goes back up into the atmosphere, becomes rain, comes back down, and there's only so much water on the earth, so we recycle it. We use it again and again and again. We want our trash to be like that too. What I have for my home recycling is what's called a compost bucket. I got it right in my kitchen. It's got a nice little filter, so you don't have to smell nature turning that back into nice usable soil. But you can take all your kitchen scraps. Be careful with your parents. Ask your parents what kind of kitchen scraps are good for a composter, because you don't want to just throw anything in there. Some things can get nasty, so you want stuff like leaves, the tops of your carrots, your apple cores can all be decomposed. They're all biodegradable. You can turn right back into soil and be used in your garden or anything like that. They're very good. So that's how nature does its recycling. So again, we've got our three arrows. They all point towards each other because I like to think of it like the earth. Everything gets reused. It's the little circle of life, and it all helps our environments and our earth. So to protect it, we reduce, reuse, recycle to try to get rid of waste, because nature doesn't waste, and we should try not to waste either. As usual, you can check out that Brain Pop. It's going to have a lot of information on how we can reduce what we use. We can reuse the things and tell us what kind of things can we reuse, what kind of things should we maybe avoid, like those thin plastic bags that get holes in them. We're going to use those thick ones for shopping. And then how we go about recycling. I'm sure you all seen recycling bins where we put stuff in to be sent to companies to be recycled so that they don't end up in our landfills. Then, as usual, we're going to go through our quiz here. You notice that I've got those three arrows once again to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And as usual also, I'm going to read through the questions for you to make it a little bit easier. So for our first question is, what is waste? What is waste? Are they things that people make to use later? Is it something that living things need to survive? Is it something you throw away and you can't reuse? Or is it something nature makes, but we can't use it? What does it mean if waste or trash is biodegradable? Is it something that will break down over time naturally? Is it something that will never go away no matter how much time it's left in the environment? Is it something that's healthy for the environment, or is it something that's toxic for plants and animals? It's like the biodegradable things that, think about the biodegradable things that go in my composter. What does it mean to reduce waste? Do we use more things that are biodegradable? Do we make new things out of old things that we've already used? Do we try to use less things that make waste and use only what we need, like I was talking about with that water, waste a little bit less water? Or is it to throw away trash where it's supposed to, like the garbage or our composters? What kind of things can we reuse to make less waste? Can we reuse paper plates and plastic silverware like you might bring to a picnic? Can we reuse disposable plastic bottles, those thin ones that are all crunchy and you got to throw them away each time? Can we reuse reusable hard plastic, glass, or metal plates and bottles like Mr. Abby's ceramic plate right here? Or can we reuse plastic grocery bags? Those ones that get the holes in them after a minute. What is recycling? Is recycling using reusable things instead of ones that need to be thrown away each time after being used? Is it using less of things that become waste and only using what we need? Is it making no more waste by not using anything that could be wasted? Or is it by taking old things and making new things out of them? Now, our last question, as usual, is my longer response where I get to hear what you guys think about it. It's the kind of things you do. It's a little bit longer, but don't let all the words fool you. It's all talking about what we talked about at the beginning of this video. And it's right up at the top here, our little recycling symbol with the 3 arrows that all kind of point in a circle around that little triangle. The recycling symbol at the top of this quiz is usually 3 arrows pointing to each other around in a circle. And they represent reducing, reusing, and recycling waste. What do you think, or why do you think they all point to each other and around in a cycle, kind of like the water cycle we were talking about? How do they all work together in protecting and saving natural resources in the environment? So how does the reduce arrow, the reuse arrow, and the recycle arrow all work together in a cycle to help protect our environment and protect the natural resources from us maybe using them up too much or polluting our natural environments? I hope you guys have lots of ideas for me on how you guys go about using the 3 R's. Maybe you've come up with some new ideas on how you and your family can help protect our environment and the natural resources we use. I look forward to you guys' responses. And as usual, keep it awesome, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you next time.